Hello, this is Mark de Nijs. I would like to show you the working of the Interact Pro system and the app, which is in this case version 2.1.33. During the video I will explain a lot of different subjects, and you can jump in between these subjects by just selecting them in YouTube. The first thing I'm going to show you is how to register as a service provider. There are two ways of doing that. The first one is to go to the app and then press request access. Be careful with this because you need to be the installer company and you shouldn't be registered yet. Any other type of user like installers, owners, users, they should not request access in this way. Just the service provider should do that. In the portal you can do the same by pressing the request access button. I'll show you both versions. So the first one in the app, request access. I have created a temporary email address that I'm going to use for this purpose. And then I press next. I need to fill in some details. I'm just putting in anything unimportant just to show you the way this works. I press request, and now you will see that the inbox will receive an email, and that email contains a hyperlink that you have to click on, and there you can set the password for your login. So this is the first service provider. Now my account has been completed and I can start signing in via either the portal and the mobile app. So let's show the mobile app. I just fill in the email address and the password. I press get started. And in the portal I can also do the same. There are no projects in this service provider because it's brand new. So the next thing I would like to show is how to invite other service providers so that they can also be part of this organization. So in order to invite the second service provider, you can press here and then you click on your service provider. And the next step is clicking on people. Here you can see invite service provider. In the portal it's approximately the same. You can press here and then on organization. And then here you can also see invite service provider. And the rest is similar to what we did before. So I have created a new email address, invite service provider. This is the second email address. And this service provider will also receive an email, as you can see here, where the same question is asked to create a password. And here you see that the service provider number 1 has invited you to this platform. So here we go.
Yeah, so one of the things that we still have is hundreds of sensors.
So here we go, create a password.
So we need to figure out what's going on there as well.
There you go. Second service provider number 2 has been created. Next. And in the app now you see pending, but if I change screen, then you will see that once this has been completely finished, that pending message will also disappear. There you go. Because now my service provider number 2 is really an existing service provider. In here you can also see the company information, where you can set, you can change your description, email address, and the registration. The next step is to create a project. So it's rather straightforward. No projects have been created yet. You need to press on the plus sign. The plus sign is only available for the service provider. Only the service provider is capable of creating projects. Let me also quickly show you that part. So the first access is what we just did. We created access to the system. We have created a new service provider, and the first service provider has the ability to create projects and also to invite other roles. So what we did here is we added more service providers, and we can add even more service providers here. All service providers, they can always see all the projects that the service providers have created combined. So, and another thing is that a service provider can also remove other service providers. So in that sense, you can really organize your organization. So the next step is indeed to create a project via this one, and as you can see, the service provider is the only one can do that. The installer can just do the commissioning of the system, and when you create a project as a service provider, you will become installer of that project right away. So you can also program your own project. There are some boxes in red here, and that is about Foundation. Foundation does not support users, so that's why these are red. They are not available for Foundation. Once the project has been created, you can also invite owners to a project, and the owner can also do the commissioning. Again, there are no users available for Foundation. And the owner can also remove the installer, invite new owners, and also remove owners. So I hope via this little graph I made it a bit clear what all these different roles mean. Okay, let's get back to my new project. So I click on the plus sign, and here I can make my new project. I can select the project type. This is an office. It automatically detects where I am, so it sets the time zone, and then I press next. Depending on your location, services, they need to be enabled for your system to work properly, by the way. So always turn on Bluetooth, always turn on location services. But here you see your address, which the system detects. You can also make your change here. And then you press create. Now your project has been created, and from here you can, what I explained previously, you can see that I have become installer automatically. From here, from this icon over there, here, I can also add another installer to the project. I can either select the second service provider to also be part of my installers, and then I press add. But if I want to add somebody else, which doesn't exist, when I start searching for the person, it doesn't pop up. So I need to invite by email. That's how this works. So I press invite by email, and then I type in an email address. So again, I have created an email address. I paste it here. And there you go. So now the installer will receive an invitation. So let's also check that email address.
And hopefully somewhere this week I can show you the logs that only contain values.
So here you can see that dear Mr. or Mrs. of the project, that's how I named him, your employer, Mr. Number One, has invited you to join the demo project for Service Provider 1 on the Interact platform. Register your account by clicking here or copy paste and put it in the browser. So again, I will need to just type in a password. And then press next. Now I can eventually also change my name. And press next. So here you can see again that this person invite is pending. And once the registration has completed, this should get away. Now you see the name has changed to what I have made it, and the pending sign has gone. So on this project you can see 3 installers. If I like, I can also just erase an installer by just clicking here and remove him again. So the project has been created and there is nothing to control. Maybe let's start with the project information first. What I typed in during the creation of the project is the information that you can see in the project information screen. So the next thing I need to do is to continue commissioning. So I have wireless networks, no lights, no wireless networks have been created yet. I can also press the information sign over here, and then it will just show me the differences between, well, the explanation of the wireless network. So a wireless network is a collection of light groups that a gateway can cover. And the question is, are you using gateways? So now I start without gateway, and we call that PRF. Previously it was called foundation. I can press what is the difference to get more explanation on what this means. So we see the difference. What's the difference between with gateway and without the gateway? So with the gateway, you have sensor and switch control. You can do scenes. You can recall them. The owner of the system can also control the system using the app. For foundation, the PRF, this is PRA, advanced PRF foundation. For advanced, you can do much more than that. So you can also do personal control for the users, which means that somebody working in the office can control the lights above his desk, as long as he has the right to do that. You can set scheduling, meaning that the lights need to turn on or off or go to a specific schedule at a specific time or a specific day in the week. You can do energy reporting, you can do off-site control, diagnostics off-site. You can also have feature updates. And there are a couple of notes. The commissioning without the gateway requires Bluetooth-enabled lights. This is a very important remark. You cannot do foundation, like this one, without Bluetooth lights. Nowadays, where you would purchase new luminaires, they should be delivered with Bluetooth capabilities. The Bluetooth lights are marked with a Bluetooth logo on the device and on the box. And it's very important to realize that you can always add a gateway later to unlock all functionality. So that is always possible, just to move from foundation, so without the gateway, to advanced, and you can also remove the gateway again so that your system becomes foundation again. So am I using gateways? My answer is no, and then I get instructions. So predefine the setup of your light networks so you can add the gateway later without recommissioning. Most lighting installations require only one wireless network, and there are some exceptions. The first one is to have multiple floors, because the floor itself might block wireless signals. What you could also have is reinforced walls. So wall number one, network number one and network number two are separated by a wall which is strongly reflecting signals or absorbing signals. Or if you have part of the network which is far away from the other part of the network, then you would also be forced to create two networks because the luminaires need to be able to communicate with each other. So it's less than 10 meters or 30 feet. And the next reason is to have, when you have very large installations that go beyond the capabilities of the system. So if you need more than 200 light points or more than 50 Zigbee green power controls. And Zigbee green power controls are sensors and switches, which are not built into the luminaire, but which are external devices. So the next step is to create this wireless light network. So I can name it downstairs, for example. That would be the place where my network exists. And then I get some explanation on the app, pull left for options. That is this thing over here. We call them Chevron menus. So if you move your finger over a screen, then here you have your options. Let me press got it first so that I can show it to you. Now when you press here, you get your options. So from here you can rename or assign a gateway or even delete your network again. This Chevron menu exists throughout the various screens in the app. So from here I can enter the network. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Excuse me for that. I can enter the network and then I get the question. Now, of course, I don't want the gateway for the moment. And then I get my grouping instructions. So it explains me what these groups mean within the app. So lights can be organized in groups and zones. Zones are also called subgroups. Lights in a group respond to individual settings and thus can have different light levels in a scene. So when I create a scene, I can set this one to 100% and this one to 50% and this one to 1%, for example. The group is always being controlled by sensors, switches, and schedules. Of course, scheduling is only available for the PRA projects. And again, it influences the entire group. So sometimes people might ask, can I switch just the zone? No, that is not possible. The switch switches the entire group, including the zones, and so does the sensor and the schedule. The lights in a zone or a subgroup, they respond as a whole. So when you add them to a scene, all the lights, they show equal light levels. So in this example, you have 3 lights in the zone, and if I would set the zone to 50%, all the 3 lights would go to 50%. The zone is also used for daylight regulation. So when you add a multi-sensor, that can be an external multi-sensor, but also luminaires with integrated sensors. As soon as you want to start to use daylight regulation, you must use the zones. So those lights that need to do the daylight regulation must be present inside the zone. Okay. The next thing is to create groups. So you need to press on the plus sign to create a group, and this group will be called, well, I'm currently in an open office, so let's call this open office. Oh. So the group has now been created, and again, the Chevron menu again can be recalled, and here you can do some changes in your name. You can do the test for the group, turn the lights on and off to see if all the lights are indeed in the group, and delete the group from here. Let's start by assigning lights to this group. I need to open the group, and then I have 3 tabs: light, control, and scenes. So when I press assign lights, I need to wait for about 10 seconds for the app to scan the lights in the neighborhood, and then based on the proximity I get a list of the devices that it sees. If you don't see all your luminaires, you can slide down like this, and then the lights will the light list will be refreshed. Let me show the ceiling by turning on the camera view. So the ceiling, the lights that are in the ceiling are the ones in this ceiling part. The other ceilings don't contain Interact Pro luminaires, so I just focus on those 6 luminaires and those 2 downlights. You can either press the select button and then select all the luminaires that you want to add to this group. You can also blink them to just see if the correct light is starting to blink. So I would like to add that light in here. I can press assign. And now that light is being assigned to the group. However, there are also alternative ways to assign lights to the group. And that is by doing, these luminaires, they have integrated sensors. You can add these lights by pressing, by using an infrared remote control. Let me get the infrared remote control so that I can show you. We support 2 different infrared controls. This one is a very small one with just 2 buttons, 0 and a plus sign. And the other one is the large RT9090. And then you can press the add sign or the add button to add the lights to your group. So let's continue adding the lights here to the group. I press the infrared remote and I observe the app, and normally the light should start rotating so that my light gets added to the group. But I see that I waited a bit too long, so let's try this again. There you go. So now the app shows when a light is being added, and it also vibrates so that you can feel that this went okay. And as you can see, I took my time to add the luminaires. If I would run around and just add all the lights by blasting every light that I can find, you can imagine that my app might not be able to follow it. Another important remark is that in this case, I need to stay nearby those luminaires because if I would be walking away, I would lose my Bluetooth connection towards those luminaires, and then I cannot add those luminaires. There is this test button over here, which I can press and turn the lights on and off to verify if I have successfully added all my lights. Now imagine that I need to add my lights to the system, but for whatever reason the lights were already captured by a system with a gateway. Then I can use cannot find all lights to try to figure out if I can find them. It tells, well, make sure that you have power cycled them, make sure that Bluetooth is activated on your device, you need to stand close, and some Android devices require location service to be activated. Well, I still cannot find all the lights. Some lights might have become part of another wireless system nearby, and to reset them, which is only possible within 24 hours, you need to stand close to the lights and tap search for lights. I don't know if there are any lights which currently are captured in a different network, so maybe the list will remain empty. Well, but here I can see a luminaire. I don't know if I'm able to blink this one because I have no idea which one that would be. But if it would be a luminaire within that was put in safe mode, for example, or within 24 hours of being captured, then I could press the reset button here. This light clearly is not receptible for being blinked, so it either isn't in it either isn't in safe mode or has been on for longer than 24 hours. So I now have 6 luminaires in my project, and you remember that I explained that I need to create a zone in order to make daylight regulation possible on the Windows side. So I'm now going to create a zone, and I call this one window. And I can now move luminaires from this group into the zone window. I can select there and then move to wherever I would like to have it. But in this case, it is a bit difficult. Now I only have 6 lights, so I would need to blink them individually to figure out which one it is, and this one is the wrong one. I need those 2 to be added. So I can use my remote control again. So I now don't select assign lights because I already have my lights in my group. I just want to move the lights from the group into this zone. So I press here, and now again I'm going to use the infrared remote and just press the plus button on the small remote to add those lights in the zone. Okay, let's do a test. And as you can see, I can now turn the lights from the zone on and off. So that went well. Let's now also see if I can find those 2 luminaires over here, which are downlights. No, unfortunately they are not visible for me right now. I would need to power cycle them, but I don't have access to the ceiling currently, so I cannot show you that. When you would have all your lights in your project, and imagine this would be a connected project with a gateway, this would be the moment at which you would need to perform any updates that are available in the system. Because some luminaires don't support specific sensors and switches, and then it's always better to just make sure that your firmware in the devices has been updated before you start adding any equipment to your system. Let's start by adding a 2-button switch. So I need to get into my group. Then I press Control. It tells me that there are undeployed changes. That's also the reason why there is this orange dot. It tells to me, after adding all controls and applying the behavior settings, deploy the settings to the lights to see the result. Okay. Which basically means add all your devices first and then just do the deployment at once. So here in this menu I can see sensors and switches. There are already 6 sensors, but these are the built-in sensors, built-in luminaire, built-in sensor luminaires. I can still add extra sensors to this group if I would like. But I wanted to add the switch first. So here I go. I click on switches and then assign switch to group. I have a couple of switches here which I would like to show on how to add them. The first one is the 2-button switch, a 4-button switch, and the American 4-button SWS200 switch. Let's start with the 2-button switch. This is the one that I have over here, is the 8470. It tells me to remove the rocker. So in this case it's just easy, just take off all the parts that you see here. Then I press next. It tells me to check if the orientation of the switch is okay. There is a 0 and a 1 written on the switch, which are very hard to see, so you will need to be very careful identifying these numbers here. Got it. Then it tells me to identify the switch. So let me try to focus on the switch when I do this. Okay, so it tells to me to press this button and this button. Many people, they are pressing this button in this way. It doesn't work when you press the switch in this way. You need to press it like this. So I now press it, you hear a little click. I hold for 10 seconds. Then you release. Then the next message is very often ignored, but it's very important to perform this action. You need to do the confirmation. It tells to press those 2 buttons and then this one. You need 3 hands for that. But if you did it a couple of times, 2 hands is sufficient. And once I did this, I can press confirmed. So let's call this the 2-button switch. It explains that when I would now press any of the buttons, it will not work because I still haven't deployed any settings. One little remark about the cover. Here is a little 0 and a 1 as well. So just make sure that they are aligned. But when I now would press the buttons on the switch, you will see that nothing happens. And that's because I didn't deploy any settings. So let's add the second switch to the group. Let's take a 4-button switch. It's much easier, this one, to add. I just need to make sure that I hold it up straight. So the Philips logo is not upside down like this. Just make sure it is straight. And then press the button which is required to press for 10 seconds. And then you release. And it tells me to confirm, which you do in this way. And next is you press confirmed in the app. So this is my 4-button switch. And it now tells me that I can configure the buttons on the switch. Let's do that a little bit. No, let's do it now. So because we are in this flow, I press configure. And the next thing that you see is on and off, which are configurable buttons. And then you have these gray options. That's just the way the system has been programmed. This button, when you press it, the lights will turn on, and this will turn off. And there is also a hold action, so this was just a single press. If I hold this button, my lights will get brighter, or if I hold this one, the lights will get darker. And when you have tunable white luminaires, and the luminaires in this seating are tunable white, you can press the buttons on the left side, you can press them, and then you will make the lights cooler or warmer. Okay, let's make a scene over here. By pressing create new scene. When you do that, your lights in the group will turn on, and we'll go to the default values, which is 100% at 4000 Kelvin. I could create a scene warm, where I would set all the luminaires at a specific value, for example 2700, so now these will become warmer. Maybe it's good to realize that, imagine I would have these 6 luminaires which are capable of 2700 to 6500. I can move the slider and use this entire range. But imagine I would add 2 other luminaires which would have a limited range. For example, they cannot go up to 6500 but only to 6000, for example. Then my slider would not allow me to go beyond 6500. So it will just, the sliders will be limited to the overall capabilities of the group. But this would be warm white, so 2700. I press the confirm. Then you can see that the lights are getting warm. Eventually I can also turn this zone off if that would be one of my desires. Then I can just press OK and then create. So now this button will recall the warm scene, and then let's just also create a cool scene here. So a cool scene at, for example, 80% in general. So this is a master slider. This is just when you want to program all the luminaires at the same time. However, if I would make any change here, then the master slider will just show something different. So remember, it was at 80%. Now I just randomly turn off 2 lights here. And you see that my master slider now has become 48. Just ignore that. If you would move this slider again, you would turn everything back on to the level in which you set this one. But this would be my cool scene. And I can now press create. And then I press save. So now my scene has been created, and it includes some tunable white features. The next one is to assign this 4-button SWS200 switch from the United States. It tells me to remove the cover, but there is no cover because I've already used it, and most probably I will also need to reset it. Let me also try to autofocus again so that you can see what I'm doing. There you go. So press next, and now I need to identify it by pressing the button for 10 seconds. However, this one has already been linked, so I will need to reset this one. So in order to reset this one, you would need a paper clip. very important tool. And you just put it in here until you see the red LED shines, lights up. Then you press the buttons again for 10 seconds. And then you see that the switch joins. And there you go. It tells me to do the configuration of the switch again. I already did it, and it is applicable to all the luminaires in the group and all switches in that group. So I don't have to do that again. Yeah, the next thing I would like to show is how to add sensor. This is a Zigbee green power sensor. There are multiple versions of sensors. So we have the version which is the IP42 version with daylight regulation capabilities. You can see it on the black dot over here. One without daylight regulation. That's what I'm going to use here now, because the one with the daylight regulation is incompatible with luminaires, with groups with only luminaires that have their built-in sensors. So I need to use this one. And this is the industrial version, and this version that I'm holding here has also got daylight regulation capabilities. So adding the sensor is, you need to press assign sensor to the group. Then I select the regular sensor, because this is the regular one, and this is the industrial one. You can see the difference clearly. It tells me to remove the tab. Well, this one does no longer have the tab anymore because it has been used already. It tells me to identify, and I think this one has already been linked. Yes, it has. So what I see that because it's now in this special walk test mode, which means it is showing a red blinking LED. When I would cover this one now with my hand, you will see that at a certain time the red LED will stop blinking because it no longer detects any motion. And when I would remove my hand, it starts detecting motion again and it starts blinking. So it is in a connected state, and I just need this one in this new project, so I need to reset that. It tells to me when the red light blinks, you need to reset. You can press here and then you get an explanation on how to reset. So basically it means that I need to make sure that I press the reset button, but I also observe the LEDs in the front, and I need to make sure that it blinks twice. I'm now pressing the reset button one time. That's not good, so I need to release, and I just start over again. One time, twice. Now I can release, and you will see that the green LED starts blinking. Then I observe the green LED. When you see that it blinks twice, just quickly, you know that the sensor has been discovered by the luminaires. There you go. It was blinking twice, and now the sensor is linked to a luminaire. In the app, however, I don't see it appearing yet, so that is less convenient. And that can be because my app was already busy adding other things, so maybe I will need to now restart my app, reset the sensor, and add it again. So here you can see the sensor was not added, and in the overall control here you don't see that there are unassigned sensors, so I'm going to quit my app and restart it. Let's, before doing that, just sync to the cloud so that this is done properly. Unlock, yes. Unlocking means that now anyone else that has access to my system could also do the commissioning of the project. Just to make sure, I'm going to reset, get out of the app and turn it off. Now I get back into my app. I go back into my project. So this is a nice troubleshoot thing that I'm just showing you here. That could happen in real life as well. So let's go back to my sensors and assign the sensor to the group. Regular sensor.
You can actually send a central override or a manual override.
Okay.
Off and
so observing the LED again,
so this is,
and the app in the meantime.
What you were looking for, right?
And if this doesn't work, the next step that I'm going to take is turn off Bluetooth of my phone, because I'm currently using my phone to record video and to control the app and to show you the screen of my phone, and that could be causing a little issue here. So it has failed. I'm now going to do that again. I'm going to quit the app and
names are here and implemented with relatively simple code, showing how it's done in Python.
Unlock.
That most customers would be very
quit the app.
Happy to read because it's easy to change.
Turn off Bluetooth.
Actually, in the API,
turn on Bluetooth.
Some demo code as well to show you how the API works. And then there's a whole UI stuff that draws all the widgets.
Get back into the project. Let's go. I would like to see if I can still control the lights.
Already shown to the customer and hopefully in a few weeks make available to the customer as well.
By pressing the test. So now my phone is going to get to contact one of the lights. And now I can control the lights. So I'm pretty confident that now I have a connection. Control. Sensors. Assign sensor to group. Regular sensor. Remove the tab. I have already reset it, so I just need to press this button in the front. And now you could see that it was blinking a couple of times, twice, to tell, okay, I have been properly linked. And then it also blinked 6 times after that to tell, hey, I also see motion. So what I always do to add the sensor is to use the barcode over here. There are a couple of digits. I just reuse them so that it's easier for me to see which one it is, so that I don't have to use lengthy names for sensors. So this one is called 037. There's a couple of digits. And then I press OK. And the next thing I get is, okay, nice. I have seen that you want to add a sensor. What do you want me to do with this group? Do you want to do occupancy sensing? Yes, of course. Does the group need to turn on and off, or does it need to turn on and off per luminaire? Which means if I would enter the room, so turn group on and off means I would enter the room, the entire ceiling would go on. If I would select this one, then if I would enter the room here, then only this luminaire would detect me. The rest will go to background level, and after the dwell time, which is set at 10 seconds by default, this light will go to the task level. So only this light will be at its task level, and the rest will stay in background. That's the difference. Or I can select only turn the group off. But let's just select turn the group on and off. Do I always also want daylight sensing? Yes, I do. And then I press save. I can swipe this away by just pressing or swiping it. It tells to me that there are also some undeployed changes, which is making a lot of sense because I have added a lot of devices, but I didn't synchronize anything yet to the luminaires. But before I do that, I want to show you some details inside the switch on-off behavior. So I click here, or I press here. Then you see that this one has been selected, area auto on, auto off with daylight dependent regulation. I can press the pen, and in here I can select what I want my group to do when I enter it. So task level 100% at 4000 Kelvin, which is the default. But if I want it to be, for example, at 5000 Kelvin, also nice, you can just select that. Let's focus on the... So that's better. Background, so the task level, the task level is where the lights come up in, and then they start doing daylight calibration, regulation. So if I don't want my lights to go full on, I can also select, for example, 65%. And when this wouldn't be sufficient, then when I have selected daylight regulation, my lights will go brighter to compensate for the lack of light. Vacant level means there is nobody in the room. What should be the light level, which is 0. The hold time means when I leave my room, how much time does my light need to stay on the task level before going to background level? And prolonged time means, okay, you have now walked out of your room, your lights have gone to background level. For how long do they need to stay in background level? So when I would do this, 1 minute, it would mean I would enter the room, lights go to 65% at 5050 Kelvin. It will stay there as long as I'm in the room. When I leave the room, 5 minutes later, the lights will go to background level of 16%. And when I still don't enter the room in that meantime, 1 minute later, the light will go to vacant. If this all goes a bit too quick for you, there's also an information button over here that will graphically explain how this works. And there is also some text here explaining you the details. The next thing is the copy settings. So imagine I would have, so this is, imagine just one open office ceiling. And I want this ceiling to behave exactly the same as this one. Then I could use the copy and paste settings for this ceiling. Let me show you. When I go back and I would create a new group, could be Open Office 2. Here you can see that it tells me to apply the copied light behavior. So now I would need to configure everything by myself, and now I can just leave it the way it is, and it will automatically paste all the settings of the previous group, which I copied, in this new group. Very, very convenient. Imagine that I would have already created a group and I just wanted to apply those settings later on. I can just go into control, switch on off behavior, pressing the pencil. Excuse me, that was the wrong button. I didn't need to enter the one here. I just needed to press the paste settings. Of course, now I don't have this option because I already pasted it. So if I would have just added created a new group and I copied the settings from this group, I could just go to the group that I desire and then paste settings so that all the settings are just duplicated. Now the entire group has been configured, and as you could see, the orange dot is still over there, so the group still wants me to do the commissioning of the group. So I would then need to deploy the settings in order to write the information about the sensors, about the switches, about the scenes into those luminaires. When you are using Bluetooth, this takes approximately 8 seconds per light to deploy. Currently, when you're using a gateway, it takes much longer to deploy. So it is recommended to first build your project in PRF and do all the commissioning, and in the end, add the gateway. If any deployment fails, then the app will also just tell to you that the deployment has failed, and then you can retry it. Just make sure that you stay nearby your luminaires when doing this, because it's all over Bluetooth, and you need to imagine that now my phone has reached out to one of the luminaires, which is nearby, and then the information is distributed over all the other luminaires. Let me show you that the scenes are recalled when I'm pressing the button on the switch. So this is the first scene, which is the warm one, and this is the cool one. I can turn the entire group on and off, and when I press and hold, and now it goes down, dim up, and this is cooler, and this is warmer. So for the 4-button switch SWS200, I can also just control the lights in this fashion, very easy. This sensor is also detecting my presence, and you can imagine this to be an extension sensor to the current ceiling, for example. So imagine I would be walking in the corridor. I could put the sensor in the corridor. When I would be walking here, then the ceiling would turn on if it detects me. The 2-button switch also just turn the lights on, turn the lights off. They do not do any Tunable White regulation, of course, because the 2 buttons are missing. And Tunable White, of course, is only available for luminaires that support Tunable White. Well, as currently I have programmed the entire system, there are still a couple of things that I would need to do. First one is to set to calibrate the window zone, which is this one. This window zone still needs to understand what would be my desired light level for the daylight regulation. So it tells to me that I would need to. That's very nice. All this. For the best result, that I need to reduce the influence of daylight and other light as much as possible. So preferably do this in the evening. Then I press next. It tells to me you could use a lux meter to do the calibration. However, there are just a limited amount of steps, so I will not be able to set it exactly at, for example, 500 lux. It will be just a little bit below or a little bit above. So I can press got it, and then I will need to press the plus or the minus to the desired light level. So imagine that this would be my desired light level, then I can press calibrate, and it tells to me that this takes about 6 minutes to finish. Just make sure that during this process nobody's walking in the room. The lights will just remain on. Don't change any light levels, surrounding light levels. Just let it be for this duration. You can just continue any other commissioning. So just press continue here. You will see it's calibrating, and once it has finished, you will get a pop-up message telling you that the calibration has finished. So if I want, I can just continue doing the second, third, fourth ceiling. However, in this specific place here, I would be very careful because these lights are directly influencing the calibration of this ceiling over here. So if I want to continue working, I would start working in different environment, closed offices, etc. The other thing I would like to show is high-end trim. High-end trim can be considered as the new 100% level. So imagine I want to save some energy and my 100% light level, which currently exists, is far too high. I could say, well, you know what? I just want my new 100% level to be, well, 88%. Well, at this moment, all my settings that have been programmed, the sliders of 0 to 100% still exist, but they are just moving in between 0 and 100 here. So this level has now become the new 100% level. Imagine that any of my lights would be misbehaving. There are a couple of options to fix things. The first one is on group level. If you have a PRF project, you can press reboot lights. If you do that, then all the lights will just get power cycle themselves, rebooting, and so that their programs all start over again. Another way to troubleshoot is imagine that an icon is wrong. You can press the three dots menu here and press info. Then it will check the information of the service tag of the luminaires and correct it if it was wrongly fetched before. But there is also a troubleshoot option. Imagine this luminaire wouldn't be reacting to my scene. I could do troubleshoot, and then it will just update the luminaire information. It will redeploy the data to the luminaire, and it will reboot the light. If any of these troubleshoots don't fix the problem with the specific luminaire, the best thing to do is just to delete the luminaire from the installation and then to add it back into your installation. That's really a very aggressive way of fixing a problem. Most of the time, this troubleshoot option is already sufficient. If I would like to add extra scenes, I can press on the scenes button, create new scene. I can name it whatever I like. Create. And as you can see, there is no switch indicator here because there is no switch linked to this scene. But what I can do now is I can also recall the scenes by using the app. By just pressing here, and then as you can see, there is this scenes that I can select: auto, warm, cool, neutral. So if I would select warm, my warm scene would turn on, neutral would turn on my newly created neutral scene, and auto means whatever setting you have selected. So imagine I would have set my light to very warm at this light level. If I would press auto, it will just stop everything that I manually set here and recall or the standard procedure of detecting people at the light level and color temperature that was selected when I created the auto on, auto off behavior. So let me quickly show that. It is in this office control. This is the behavior. And here you can see that this setting, the auto setting, has now started my lights at 65% at 50-50 Kelvin and just behaves as if it has detected motion and it's now running its automatic program. Okay, so in principle, my entire system now works properly. this group, of course, I don't need it, so just throw it away. But the next step would be my system is working properly. I have calibrated. In the meantime, I paused my movie a couple of times, so you have missed the message calibration completed. But nevertheless, everything is fixed now. Next step is to make sure that I invite an owner. So in order to do that, I need to get back to my project overview. So here I see that I'm project level. Click here and then press invite owner. Just the same process as with the installer and with the service provider. Just type in the email address, press send, and it will be done. Once the owner has been installed, just make sure that when you hand anything over to the person, that you unlock your project. Because else, if somebody else would try to enter the project, that person will get a message that, in this case, SP1, so this service provider number one, has locked this project, and you need to ask service provider number one to unlock the project so that you can enter it again. So it's always best practice, always to unlock before you do anything else with your phone. You need to realize when there is no gateway, your phone contains all the information, and you would need to unlock so that all the data gets synchronized to the cloud and that the cloud has the latest information. So if you want to do a quick synchronization with the cloud, you can also just get in here and then press the not synced with the cloud button here. And then it will also ask me, okay, now I have synchronized. Do you want to unlock the project? Of course, I can now press yes. And I have now successfully logged out and unlocked my project. Well, let's now show how to get this project from PRF to PRA, which means that we are going to add a gateway, and then I get advanced functions. I press demo project, I press here, and in here, so here is my wireless network downstairs. If I would have 5 or 10 or 20 is the max, by the way, 20 wireless networks, I could add a gateway to each of these. So I would need to press assign gateway. In the meantime, I'm going to turn off the camera, or else this will crash. My phone will require the scanner to start. So assign gateway, syncing to the cloud, and then it will search for the QR code, which is on the gateway. Let me show a gateway. So this is a gateway. This is how the thing looks like. I'm now going to just type in the MAC address of the gateway. Introduce the MAC code. I now get the message updating the gateway. It receives the information about the project from the cloud. Imagine that my system would not have received any firmware update, then at this moment my gateway would also receive the firmware update, and then that update process takes about 10 minutes. Now it takes much shorter because it doesn't need to update the entire gateway, it just updates the project information. Now this project has become advanced. You could see the gateway, let's go back, you could see the gateway image here. And over here you can also see that a new icon has appeared, which is the clock symbol. And the clock symbol allows you to do scheduling. So whatever I'm doing now in my app, everything is based on connected capabilities. I have lost connection with my phone, so I will need to reconnect with my phone quickly. Let's do that. Okay. So when I let's finish the part about the gateway. So now my gateway is connected to this network via the Chevron menu. I can press again, and from here I can also select remove gateway. So this is very easy, straightforward way to add gateways and to remove them. I could also do it from here by pressing gateway and then press remove gateway. In here I can see the Zigbee channel which has been chosen by the system. I cannot change the Zigbee channel, but this is the way to see which channel was set. You can also configure the NTP server. You can see the status and the firmware version over here. So maybe it's nice to now show you the scheduling. So from here I can press here the scheduler, create a new schedule, and I can, for example, name this one all off at 6. Then I can select the days on which the lights should turn off at 6. So 6 o'clock. Now my action is the group, which is group open office, apply, turns off, apply. So now, and when I press save, I have created a schedule that turns off the lights at 6 p.m. As you could see, there were also other options in here to do anything with your schedules. So for example, you could create an action on starting a scene. So imagine that I wanted to start scene warm at a specific time, then this is how this works. You just need to realize when you enter, when you tell a system which is automatic on, automatic off, to start a scene while you are not in the office, then when the hold time has expired, your light will just turn off again. So it is not overriding anything in your current system. It's like as if somebody is pressing the scene button on the switch. It just launches that scene, but then the rest will just start counting down. The timer start counting down until vacant. The whole time has expired, and then go to vacant level. The next thing I would like to show you is how to discover luminaires that do not have Bluetooth. So you will need to find them in the old-fashioned way of discovering luminaires. So I go into my network, and then there are two ways. I either go into lights, and then I wait until this discovery thing has finished for the Bluetooth lights, and then I press discover lights. So discover lights allows me to just do any discovery with the gateway, or I could go through just the group. I see that people sometimes go into the group and then press assign lights, and then they will try to assign non-Bluetooth lights directly to the system. They might appear in the list here, but they will not assign themselves. So that's really wrong. Never press assign when you need to discover the lights that are not supporting Bluetooth. So you will need to cannot find all lights and then press discover lights. Let me show you with this camera what happens with those lights. Let's move the camera a little bit. So here are some luminaires that do not support Bluetooth, which are laying here. Now I press discover lights. I have covered them because they are so bright. And now those luminaires should be discovered by this system, and hopefully they have not been stolen by a different lighting system around here in the office already. So you see that the luminaires have so the system has already found 6 lights, which are the ones which are in the ceiling. The discovery process has already started. And I just need to wait until the new luminaires have discovered. I strongly have the impression that those lights were already discovered by a different system, which is not mine. So then I won't be able to discover them or add them in my own system here. So let me show you, that's another thing that's very important to realize. This could happen in a real installation as well. Sometimes you will need to reset lights. Let me get some tools for that. So I took the U-dimmer switch out of my bag. I will need to reset those lights. So in order to do that, this is only for Zigbee only devices. I will need to power cycle them. And then I will need to press the plus, the 1 and the 0 button for about 10 seconds. And then you will see, if everything is okay, a green LED blinking, orange, green. So this means that now this light has been reset. Let's also try to reset this one. You need to stand nearby those lights. Okay, so this one is also blinking and it's okay. If I would have seen another light started to blink, not one of those, then I would need to release those buttons immediately so that I don't accidentally delete or reset the wrong light. With Bluetooth lights, that's a different process. Let me try to show that later. So I have now reset those lights. I have power cycled them. I'm going to start the commissioning process again, so the discovery process. For that, I will need to press Discover More. So I put power on the lights, I press Discover More, start discovering, and hopefully now my lights won't get stolen. So I see them dimming here. I don't know if that was visible in the on the screen here because they are so extremely bright. So I see 2 lights have been discovered. I can press Stop Discovering, and now when I do that, the system starts fetching the data of these luminaires, which means it's checking with the internet what is the name of those luminaires. I can now, so it tells Bluetooth lights will be added while creating light groups and may not be visible here, which is okay. Assign lights. Now those lights, if I press assign lights, you will see them in the app. And now I can blink them and I can assign them without any issue. It is this core line number 8 and number 7. So select all, for example, assign. Okay, well, everything has been set up here. The next thing I should need to do is to deploy the settings, but let's not do that now for not spending too much time on that. I would like to show some extra features that are currently in the system when the gateway is connected. So first of all, the gateway information, which is the same screen as when you press the gateway button here. And well, as I mentioned, you can see this schedule option. In here, you also have more information. Previously, it was just project information. Now you can also see project updates, light information, installation reports. So the project updates would show you whenever there are any updates, firmware updates available for the luminaires. So everything in this project is currently up to date already. Light information is only here when there is light information missing for specific luminaires. And the installation report allows you to see the different devices in your system. You could generate the report in your app, and then you can just open it in the app as well. But for this example, it is better that I show it in the portal, because the portal has a larger screen. So let's log in as my service provider. So in here, I now see my project. I can open it here. When I have a gateway connected, I have all these icons over here. When I wouldn't have the gateway connected, you would see that some of these icons are grayed out because this option is simply not available for a PRF project. So the reports. I just created a report here, and in the portal you can also see the report, and you can just open it from there. So the installation report shows you the installer details, who's in there. Okay, I didn't invite any owner, but else the owner information would be there. I can see my network name, the MAC address of the gateway, the firmware of the gateway, the group behavior settings the whole time, and the task tuning was the high-end trim, the new 100% level. I can see the different device types which are in project, so including the occupancy sensors and wall switches, and also down here I can see the firmware version of the luminaires. And this could be very interesting, this report could be very interesting if you have issues with updates, because when you want to figure out which lights have not received the update, the report would really help you with that. You could clearly see which one has a different version number. Maybe people have removed the light from the installation, then you could just, well, delete it from the app as well, so that the app does no longer try to update a non-existing device. Now we have connected the gateway, we can also invite users. However, the users can only be invited when I invite an owner first. So let me prepare that and then also invite an owner and a user. So I created an email address, go to invite this email address as an owner, company name, I can put any information I like here. Okay, then I press request, and now my owner will receive an email where he again also can set his password. And from here now I can also invite users. So imagine that I would just type in this email address. Next. Then the next screen allows me to choose which groups this user is allowed to control. Remember, which I said in the beginning, is that the users are capable of controlling just their own desk. Well, this is where you do that. The user permission allows you to set specific groups to be controlled by the user. I have now only created one group, so you will only see one one selectable item over there. When pressing invite, then now the invitation has been sent, and the users can now, or that user can then, once registered, once received the email and set his password, can then log in using exactly the same app and just start controlling the lights above his head. Now I have covered pretty much everything about the app, so I would like to show the portal currently. So in the portal, let's start from the beginning. When you log in as a service provider, you as a service provider have the possibility to create projects. So merge project also exists. It's mainly for older projects, projects that were created in the very beginning, 2018, for example, when we didn't support multiple networks inside one project. You would see that there would be 4 projects, for example, floor 1, 2, 3, and 4, but they were all part of the same project. So you could use the merge project to just put those 4 projects together into one. Be careful, never merge PRF projects, which are projects without the gateway. It will break your projects, so don't do that. Over here, you can see your active projects and your archive projects. And when you press over here, you will see your project overview. People might also ask full access without subscription temporarily supported. We notify 6 months ahead of time. When access gets restricted, people ask, what does this mean? It only means that for the moment, all the projects that you create, they are all accessible. There is no limitation or whatsoever. At the moment, Signify decides to make payable services. I can imagine that maybe specific features or maybe even new features can only be accessed when subscribed. However, that's currently not planned, and we will notify 6 months ahead of time when such restrictions will occur. The service provider itself can just be found over here. You can see the profile of the service provider and the name of the organization. Just make sure that you always fill in something unique over here of the service provider name, which is just the organization name, which could be the installer's organization name. From here you can also invite the service providers and also delete them if you don't need them. Also invite new installers. Inside each project you also have a couple of options. So from here you can see the project information, general information, monitoring, which is the screen. It shows the energy consumption. Over here you also have the possibility to choose the energy consumption. However, this is a brand new project, so no data has been gathered yet. But over the course of time, of course, you will then see that this is being populated. Health status, currently there are no filled devices, there are no degraded lights. Degraded lights means that a light might be at its economic lifetime and might need to be replaced. Filled devices, messages, they mean if you would get a message Most of the time they will just disappear because it was just a temporary failure. But sometimes it might happen that there is a problem between the LED board and the driver, and then you might get a failing device. Or if you are using LED tubes, TLEDs, then you might also get messages of failed devices when there is a problem with the power supply to those tubes. Light controls allows you to start the scenes. There are a couple of exclamation marks here. That is because I modified the group. I have added a couple of new luminaires after I created these scenes. So that's why there are these exclamation marks. I would need to go into my app and just fix that. Let's show you how that works. So the exclamation mark in the scenes. Here they are. So it tells me the same thing. Do you want to define the values? Well, I can enter this. And then you remember I added those two new slim down lights. By default, the system tells, okay, let's just turn them on. If I'm okay with this, I just press save, and that's it. So that's how you can get rid of these exclamation marks. Imagine that, okay, for this specific scene, I want those lights level at a different value. Then I just do that and press save. Here you can now see that those exclamation marks have also disappeared. If I would have multiple groups, then I would see them in this screen. I would be able to select them and just set their value. Just be aware that the sliders that you see in the app and in the portal, they do not reflect the real life action at this moment. We don't know, there is no feedback coming from the system towards the cloud or towards the app telling the actual status of the system. So if you want to set the system at warm, you just press here and then all the lights will go to warm. But if my slider would be off, now of course I see that my lights are turning off, but if I would generate motion here, my lights would turn on, and this slider would still show off. So I might get the impression that my lights are off, but in reality they could be on. That's because there is no feedback. These are the schedules. From here you can also create schedules. This is the update screen. There are no updates, so this is empty. Demand response. This is only available for the United States. They can do that automated eventually with a specific special gateway. It allows an energy supplier to send to large equipment like lighting installation to lower their power consumption to save the grid. But again, this is only used in the United States. The installation setup allows you to show, like in the app, how your group is set up, what your system is set at, so that a gateway is assigned, which channel there is. Inside the group, you can see which zones exist and how many lights are in the zone. You can see the luminaires, you can see the controls. The ones with the MAC address are the ones which are integrated inside the luminaires. Here you can see the Zigbee green power devices. Inside the zone, you can also see your luminaires. User management. This one allows you to invite the owner, invite the installer, invite the user, and also throw them away from the project if you do not need them anymore. Or if somebody has left the organization, you no longer want them to access the lighting installation anymore. The report, which we have already covered, and the project details, which is the name of the project, and the owner details. Inside the project overview, from here you can also archive projects, which means that if you press here, then your project will disappear from this list and will appear in the archive projects list. You might want to archive projects because you have already delivered the installation and you no longer want to see that project in your overview anymore. Just be very careful inside the archive projects. Whenever any project is there, you can delete the project. When you do that, you will no longer get access to your project anymore. So that is very important to realize. In here, you can also see the version of the system, terms and condition, and help and documentation. And this online help is also very important if you're searching for specific topics, for example, switch. Then you will get some information about topics that are mentioned in here. It will guide you directly to the place where there is information about that specific topic. Now I found a page not found, which is not very nice for a demonstration, but nevertheless, this should be working perfectly fine. Another nice thing of this online help is that you can see, you might have noticed is that there is a translation option. So I can just press a different language and then your page will be translated into that different language. For the customers in Greater China, where their web page ends with CN, unfortunately, the Google Translate option does not work. So they will only see the English version. There is one part in the portal that I didn't cover yet, and that is the creation of energy reports. So when the gateway is connected to your system, every 15 minutes the gateway asks to the lights what their energy usage was during the past 15 minutes. And that is being recorded. So you can just create your own energy reportings by pressing Create Energy Report during which period of time. And once you have selected the dates, so there's just a very short date here. We don't have any data in our system yet, but then you can just press Download CSV. And it will just publish all the information in the CSV. With programs like Microsoft Excel, you could just create your own graphs of your energy report. Let me now show you how to delete a couple of things, whatever needs to be deleted if you want to clean up any project. There are two ways of cleaning up a project. So imagine, well, this is a demo. I could clean it up very, very quickly by simply going into my list of lights over here and then press on In Network, and from here delete from project. I just need to make sure whenever my project is large that my gateway is always in reach of the luminaires that I want to delete, or in order not to create, I should not create any gap in the network. So deleting all the lights one by one from this project allows you to empty the list. There are no active lights in the system anymore, and from there you could simply consider this project as done. The only thing you need to do is to remove the gateway and then synchronize to the cloud, unlock your project, and then you go to your portal, and then in your portal you click on Archive, and then inside your archive projects, there you click on delete. Again, be very careful, never press delete when your project is still active. Never, never do that. You will no longer get access to your project anymore. But when you would have a demo like what I'm doing here, this is a very efficient way of cleaning up your stuff. Because I'm also just showing all the details of the system, I'm also going to show you how to delete various things in the app. So let's start with the users. Delete the users. This is very easy. Just go to the user and then remove, delete. From now on, this email address can be reused in a different project again because I have removed the users. The same thing for installers. Just remove. Also, as I am a service provider, I'm service provider number 1, I've logged in as service provider number 1, I am allowed to remove the service provider from the installation. Now, at this moment, the installer has been removed, but the service provider itself still exists. So how I'm going to delete the service provider is in here. In the People tab, you still see that my installers and service provider exist. So if I want to permanently delete this person, then I just press remove. And now this person has no longer got any access to Interact Pro. We can do the same for the installer. I could also remove myself as an installer, but that would make no sense, so be careful by doing that. So now I've deleted the users, the owners, the installer, the service provider. Schedule. Schedule, press the schedule button, then the 3-dot button, delete schedule. Deleting the groups that apply to the schedule will no longer be triggered. Sure. Delete. Delete lights. And before deleting lights, I think it's also nice to just show you how to delete the control devices, like switches. Be careful to always remove the scenes that were already attached to this one. So this one didn't have any scenes attached, so I can safely remove this one. 2-button switch does not have any scenes, so I can delete it. The 4-button switch, I had a configuration in here. Just click here, click on the one which is selected, then press select so that it gets unselected. Do the same with the other one, because now when I would now press save, because when I would now delete the switch, I would also be able to delete the scenes. If I would have forgotten to do this and I would have just deleted the switch, I could not delete the scenes because the scenes are still linked to a switch which no longer exists. Delete. Yes. Sensors, same story. So I added this sensor. Press here, press delete, press delete. These sensors, I cannot delete them because they are part of the luminaires. Scenes, deleting a scene. That's how you do that. So now everything has been emptied. The only things are still present are the lights and the zone. You will see that I am not able to, oh, that was not what I wanted to show you. I'm not able to delete the zone now because there are still luminaires inside. You need to unassign all lights and delete all controls from the zone before you can delete it entirely. So enter the zone, press delete from project. There's also unassign from group. Unassigning means when you press this one, your luminaire will be removed from the group or the zone, and it will still be part of your network. So you don't have to rediscover the luminaire anymore if you want to add it to a different group. So this one is recommended if you want to keep your luminaire inside your project, and this one is recommended if you want to reuse your luminaire in a different project. One tip when doing this is, let me also try to get this on camera. One little moment. So I have turned on the camera. The best thing to do when you want to delete luminaires is to turn everything off via the app or via switch, and then delete the luminaire from the project. Because a luminaire which is deleted will always go to 100%, and that is a very nice confirmation for yourself to see which light has been properly deleted. Sometimes the app might tell, hey, I couldn't delete, or there was a problem deleting, but you did see that the light was turning on. So then for you, that is a confirmation like, okay, this light was really deleted. You can just remove it from the list. But if you have a problem with the deletion, just don't press remove from list. Always close it and try it again until you have properly deleted your light. So now you can see all the lights in the ceiling have been deleted, except for the ones which are next to me, which are the ones which don't support Bluetooth. They are just Zigbee only. But when I do this, the same thing happens. I delete, and you will see that the light just turns on when it is deleted. The window is now also empty. I can press delete. It will delete the zone. Now my group is empty. I can also delete the group. Now the gateway, still the last thing that is there. I can remove the gateway. And now my project has become a standalone, empty project. So when I enter the project, you will see there is nothing to control. Unlock. This is the complete deletion of everything. What I would like to show you as well is how to reset luminaires or lights that are captured in a different project via Bluetooth. That happens in demonstrations sometimes, but also imagine that your app has crashed while you were doing any programming, and you might have lost or you might have deleted your app while your luminaires were while the project was still locked. If you do those things, then you will no longer get access to your project, and you might need to use a specific mode in the luminaires, which is called Safemode, to remove lights from your project away and integrate them in your own project again. What I'm going to do now is I am going to add some lights in this demo project. I'm going to create a new project where I want to steal those lights from this project away and put them in this project. Normally that is not possible, but if you use that specific safe mode, you can do that. So let me prepare that and I'll be back in a couple of seconds. So there are two projects now. I created them in the meantime. There's one demo project that contains the luminaires that you can see here, 4 of these, one switch relay unit, and one project is called stealing lights. So obviously I want to get the lights from this project and put them in this project. So let's try to do that by default, see if that we can do that. I enter the group, I'm going to assign lights, and you will see some lights because they are the ones that are in the ceiling above me. But of course, that are not the ones that I would like to add. So cannot find all lights that I need to press, because these are the ones that are in the ceiling. So I press cannot find all lights. I still cannot find all lights, search for lights. And now I can see that there are a couple of power balances and downlights and even other luminaires. However, I cannot reset them from here because they are still part of a different project. The only way to be able to do that is to use this specific mode, which is safe mode. In order to get into safe mode, I will need to power cycle the luminaires a couple of times, 5 times to be precise. And I always use a stopwatch to do this, because if you don't do that, you will lose counting and your safe mode will not work. So here is stopwatch. I'm going to start it now. Stopwatch. And let me do a 3-second power cycle. Sometimes it happens that when you try to do safe mode, especially with the luminaires with integrated sensors, that these sensors, even though there is no power, so I remove the power, then you see that the luminaires or these sensors, they somehow get power and they boot up very briefly. And when they boot up very briefly, then their internal counter counts that boot as 1. And if I would need to count until 5, a luminaire which has booted in the meantime has already counted 6 times and is no longer in safe mode. So again, a very important remark. So I try the 3-second power cycle. First of all, I remove the power from the system. Next is I'm going to turn on my stopwatch and let it count until 6 seconds. And then every 3 seconds, I'm going to do the power cycle until it reaches 30. And then I have power cycled 5 times. Six. 9. Right. I have now power cycled 5 times, and hopefully those luminaires are indeed in safe mode. There are many devices here. I'm not really sure which one is my luminaire, but just let's try it. Yep, clearly was one of mine. So as you can see, this is how you can reset those devices. I'm not going to try to reset all the other devices because I'm not sure which ones are the ones that I have. I didn't write down the MAC addresses of my luminaires over here, and there are many other devices in this office as well that might just be linked to a gateway. People are also doing programming, so I prefer not resetting them. But this is how you can reset a luminaire and discover them next and add them in your own project. This one, but I'm not sure if this is one of my devices. Yes, it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 devices I have reset now. Assign lights. And I might need to power cycle them one more time. No, there are my devices. That's so this one and this one. I just keep it short. I can also add those downlights, the power balances, but I'm not very sure which ones it are, and I prefer not messing around with other people's devices. But this was just to quickly show you how to get rid of luminaires from a different project and then steal them, put them in your own project. Again, this requires you to have access to the power, and then you need to power cycle 5 times within, well, what I was showing was a 3-second power cycle. I believe with the newest firmware you have a 10-second window to power cycle your lights. If I have an RF relay unit, I can also reset that one, but you don't need to use Safemode for this one. It's easier. So in order to reset this one, I will just need to press the reset button for 10 seconds. So the device is hidden in here in this box. Press it for 10 seconds. And then you release. And normally the light should blink to indicate that the unit was properly reset. And now if I assign lights, I should be able to discover this relay unit as well. There it is, the relay unit. Test, turning off and turning on. Resetting TLEDs is yet another thing that you can do. There are 2 versions of TLEDs. One is Bluetooth capable and the other is not Bluetooth capable. On the TLEDs you can clearly see whether or not a device is Bluetooth capable or not, because there is the Bluetooth sign on the Bluetooth capable luminaire, or light I mean. So here you see the Bluetooth sign. This one is Bluetooth capable and this one isn't. In order to reset the Bluetooth light, you will need to use Safemode if you want to steal it back from a different device. Or better, if possible, just delete it from your project. Deleting a Bluetooth light from a project is the same as resetting it. The Gen 1 tubes, however, you will need to use the infrared remote control, power cycle the device, so turn off the power, turn on the power, and then press the 0 to reset this tube. And once the devices have been reset, you will be able to discover them again in the app. Please note again, the ones which do not support Bluetooth can only be discovered via the gateway. This was the end of the demonstration, and I think I covered pretty much everything, all the possibilities in the system. So if you have any questions, please reach out to the contact centers. I will put the link to the contact center in the link of the YouTube movie. Thank you very much.